One example, a police dog can be used to search public locations like gas stations where prior cases show guns will be stashed for protection ahead of the next potential drug sale.
So far this year, the Atlanta Police Department has recovered 472 weapons. We're just in March, Councilmember.
And that is more than 400 weapons taken over the same period during 2021.
So I hear you. I want us to have anti-gang messaging. It needs to be coupled with maybe mediation or a coming together of the gangs so that we
was ransacked. Thousands of dollars worth of high-end equipment was stolen, and the criminals made off with a firearm. Fox 5's Brian Hill says the volunteers desperately want two of the items back in particular.
The two volunteers were actually waiting out the rain Friday evening, just exploring downtown Atlanta, including the aquarium here behind me, before they were supposed to head back to Columbus, Georgia to search for that missing woman. But once they made it back to their car at a nearby parking lot, they found the back window shattered and more than 30 items gone, including a hard drive and a loaded gun.
There's these waves of anger and sadness and devastation.
You're looking at the shattered driver's side back window. Lindsay Busick and Jacob Grubbs tells us thieves smashed their way through Friday evening. The break-in happened inside this private parking lot on Marietta Street in downtown Atlanta, sometime between 4 and 9 that night.
I realized that his laptop bag was gone with his new iMac computer. From there, realized that my camera bag was gone. Then realizing that the drone was gone as well.
In total, the two tell us about $13,000 worth of expensive equipment is all gone. It's high-quality gear their organization, Chaos Divers, uses to help families and police find missing people across the country. Based out of Illinois, they're an unpaid volunteer search and recovery dive team.
We drive around in the waters with the sonar equipment, the high-end equipment, to actually look at different bodies of water to see if we can find their lost loved one. If they're in a vehicle and they're missing, more than likely they're in the water.
They also use that equipment to create videos for social media and YouTube to make this service free for families. In the past 5 months, Grubbs and Busick say Chaos Divers has helped locate 9 missing people.
The two biggest things are the fact that my gun is out on the streets of Atlanta it's devastating, and that hard drive.
That hard drive contains the last 3 months of work the organization has filmed.
It may look decorative, but this is a 6x6 they'll stop a bullet. And it's got gun ports. Robbed and shot at this location. I done been to Piedmont Park, Old 4th Ward, and now I'm back in Freedom Park. And no, it's not the dead end. Oh, it's a dead end, but it's not a dead end for me. Tree huggers, they do it every time. They break the trees. And it was budding too.
Russia and its ally Belarus. The protesters, a mix of Ukrainians and Poles, caused a 25-mile-long backup, leaving around 950 trucks waiting an estimated 32 hours as they tried to cross into Belarus. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is calling on Israel to help the people of Ukraine. While speaking to Israeli lawmakers on a Zoom call on Sunday, Zelensky reminded Israel of the similarities between their two countries.
Both of us have the same threat of total destruction of the people.
Soldiers listening to this broadcast, I don't want you to be broken like my father.
The sort of Russian media machine
have the same threat of total destruction of the people, state, culture, and even the name Ukraine, Israel. I want you to feel all of this.
While Russia maintains the vast majority of its forces, this invasion is not going as quickly as Moscow hoped. Some feared that could push Vladimir Putin to ramp up attacks on civilians.
The war is not going according to plan, as Putin said it would. And the concern for us is that that Putin is going to be taking more risks.
President Biden is set to meet with NATO leaders this week in Brussels, where they'll discuss Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Steve Rappaport, Fox News.
And worked as an intern at Atlanta Magazine and CNN. She was just 25 years old. APD says 2 people were killed in a deadly crash on I-20 this morning. It happened just after 5 a.m. near the intersection with 285. Police say 2 cars collided on the interstate when one of the vehicles became engulfed in flames. 3 people, including a 3-month-old infant, were taken to a nearby hospital. The early morning crash also led to major traffic delays for drivers as crews tried to clear that scene.
I didn't know if it was just traffic or, if it was like an accident. And then when I saw the traffic wasn't moving, I'm like, man, that's crazy. 1 hour turn.
Who was driving the white vehicle on your screen led police on a brief chase before officers were able to pin their car down and make an arrest. Atlanta police hope surveillance video
flying through the air and landing on an extremely steep hill in LA. It happened late last night. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but police say the TikTok user is a person of interest and could face a misdemeanor charge for that stunt. A boater who shot and killed a
Moscow has responded with an all-out assault on Ukrainian cities. Hundreds of civilians have died in the process. The Pentagon estimates Russia has fired more than 1,000 missiles in Ukraine. Protesters today for more than a week, why it could take another week to get it free.
If you have an Amazon, him pump the brakes.
Most places I see ran at close to $5.
The average price for a gallon of regular in Georgia, $4.22. For diesel, $5.11.
We can't keep going like this.
That adds up for Nathan Cherry.
Probably about 900.
How much does that hurt?
It hurts, man. It hurts.
They probably suffer worse than anybody else.
Ed Kroll heads the Georgia Motor Trucking Association.
The numbers are phenomenal.
Kroll says medium to large companies often can absorb the cost. They have long-term fuel contracts.
They'll have a little buffer on these price changes.
Smaller, independent operators often pay spot prices, whatever the cost is that day.
It is slamming them.
Skyrocketing prices could force smaller companies off the road.
Some smaller companies, for a period of time, are simply choosing not to run their trucks because even though they're not bringing in money, they lose so much running.
Could this possibly force you out of business?
We could. We really can't afford to drive.
It's hard. I don't know. Think about just selling the truck and finding me a job.
Higher gas prices mean it'll cost more to ship pretty much everything, and that could mean it could cost more for pretty much everything else for you, the consumer. In Doraville, Christopher King, Fox 5 News.
Governor Brian Kemp has temporarily halted the state tax on gas through May 31st. Fox 5 was the only Atlanta television station in Darien, Georgia, when the governor signed the legislation.
Look, I signed it as quick as the bill got to me to give Georgians relief at the pump as quickly as we could.
While for drivers, it may have seemed like it took forever to get some help with gas prices as they kept climbing higher and higher. But it only took 9 days for state lawmakers to unanimously pass House Bill 304 and get it to the governor.
I want to commend the General Assembly on how fast they got this bill done and for their cooperation.
The state tax is about 29 cents a gallon. If you have a 15-gallon tank, it would be $4.35 less to fill up.
One example, a police dog can be used to search public locations like gas stations where prior cases show guns will be stashed for protection ahead of the next potential drug sale.
So far this year, the Atlanta Police Department has recovered 472 weapons. We're just in March, Councilmember.
And that is more than 400 weapons taken over the same period during 2021.
So I hear you. I want us to have anti-gang messaging. It needs to be coupled with maybe mediation or a coming together of the gangs.